top stories. Get the news before it's history in the morning.
I think a lot of you have been wondering, where on earth is he? Well, in South African football, some coaches are remembered for trophies and others are remembered for their tactics, but a very select few are remembered for shaping lives. And my guest, though, wow. It is always believed that football is about more than just winning matches. It's about creating the kind of players and also building character, leaving a legacy, and that lasts for a long, long time, way beyond the final whistle. Now, one of the country's most respected football thinkers is returning to where it all began. I mean, he is back at the institution where he once also helped to build, now known as the Africa School of Excellence, under the new ownership of Chipper Group as head of the football development. Now, after years on the touchline in the Premier Soccer League and also most recently with Baroka FC, they call him Dance. He is stepping away from the pressures of professional football to focus on what he believes, though, matters most, which is discovering, nurturing, developing South Africa's next generation of stars. Now, his vision is bold and also uncompromising, as you would expect from Dance Malesela, also creating a unique football philosophy, producing some of the special players, restoring the School of Excellence as well as one of the country's premier talent factories. So tonight, we're going to be welcoming one of South Africa's great football minds. I mean, a coach, a mentor, also a developer of talent. He is the new head of football development at the Africa School of Excellence, Dance Malesela. Thank you so much for your time. Drive safely. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a while.
I know. That's why we had to hunt you down. And they said no. He has got a new appointment. He's been enrolled in the School of Excellence. Firstly, congratulations. Good to have you back in football. What's the feeling like?
Oh, it's very great, particularly where I come. That's where I come from, where I started, where my coaching all started, where I was taught and learned and taught other people as well.
How and where did Siviwe Chipambengesi give you a call and say, listen, I want you to be part of this project, and most especially I want you to head this project?
Now, the honest truth is that I called him because I saw some boys in my hometown, and I wanted to get how they can get into the school because I saw a lot of potential. And, one thing led to another. We just then diverted and said, yes, I forgot that you were, in the development structures for some time. So can we not talk, let's make an appointment and talk. And, everything resulted into what is happening now.
So that conversation centered on what? I mean, put us into the picture there. We were not there. You were there. Siviwe Mbengesi was there. What were you guys talking about? What was it about the project that said to you, I want to be a part of this?
Well, obviously, it was mostly what I obviously thought of, because I had to do a lot of thinking and saying, hey, do I go back to the school or do I want to stick to this thing? And I said, hey, coincidentally, there's a guy I met in the street. He just said to me, hey, coach, I wish that you could just forget about all these things, just develop players for this country, please. And I said, it depends, we'll see. And when he started saying, no, can you come and direct this thing and lead this thing, I just obliged. We didn't speak for too long. I just said, okay, and he told me the vision of the school, and I said, okay, I'm in, so, yeah.
I love the fact that you said, hey, you in, man, because you've spoken in the past, Dan, about the fact that we must produce special players. In your view, what makes that truly, truly special player?
Most of the time, my direction or the direction I take is always to say, what can I bring into the head of the player? Because these players come with talent. And when they come with talent, you've got to bring in an element that it's just not there. You know, how players must think around the game. You know, what they need, how they need to negotiate the ball and the opponents and all of that. You know, so it's more of a mental thing for me, because if you can be smart in the game, then you are a better player. You know, you become a team player automatically, because a lot of our players sort of try to individualize the game and all these things when it's more of a team thing.
Wow. And do you believe, though, that when you look at the Premier Soccer League or the Betway Premiership, to be more specific, yes, please don't tell me about Rele Mofokeng or Oswin Opolis, because those are obvious and they've shown us, and whether it's at the national team or for Pirates, those are obvious talents. Do you see anybody else? Do you see a couple of players that can reach that mark, that can claim the tag of being called a special player?
Yeah, there are a lot of players, Robert. It's just how we, you know, without mentioning names, it's just how they are taught to behave on the field. You know, how we teach them, you know, to do things. The unfortunate part, especially with the players that I coached before and they went on to play in the PSL. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, is that when they are with me, they are good. And as soon as they leave and they go somewhere, because most of them will get greener pastures, you know, because I've been always with that will probably sell players. But as soon as they leave, those players change. Maybe it's because the way they are told to play, you know, as opposed to how I told them to play. You know, I see a lot of these players not having the independence that I gave them.
What takes that away, though? Is it what foreign, let's say foreign coaching that comes through from, let's say, a coach from a different part of the world that doesn't understand how that player can be best served to get the best out of his given or God-given talents?
I think it's the coaching of people, you know. Sometimes I think it's just not understanding, particularly the South African player, because most of the time I've been fortunate to be working with a lot of South African players as opposed to foreign players. You know, so it's just probably not understanding. Because to be honest, you come to the country, you need to teach yourself the behavior of our coaches, our players, and how they can handle things, you know, and what they can do and what they cannot do. And I've seen so many times that I would have this player at a particular position playing for my team, but at the same time, then he goes to another club, then he's playing elsewhere, and I already know in my head that this is going to hurt this boy.
Sure. Now, I mean, you got the unique football philosophy that you've spoken about before. So what will the Africa School of Excellence identity look like under your leadership?
Well, obviously, the same philosophy I always follow, that, you know, I know a lot of South Africans say possession is overrated. You know, you hear it from all corners. You know, when matches are being commentated, it's fine. They say possession is overrated, but possession won the World Cup. You know, and the best in football thrive on possession. You know. But it's not just possession, it's possession with intention. So that's the element I want these boys to. You know, you want to watch. You know, I hear a lot of people saying, no, now we are no longer interested in watching matches. You know, sometimes you find people when you are sitting with your friends and you're watching matches, the other one is having a discussion. They're not really paying attention. As opposed to sometimes when other teams are playing and people pay attention, you know, and there are no more who's and was. Wow, yeah. So I want a situation where these boys, somebody can say these boys are not this age.
Yes,
where
they're doubting and saying,
Yeah,
this is an old
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I want us to create that situation at the School of Excellence, at the Africa School of Excellence, that there must be a wow factor when the boys are playing, to say, oh, that was intelligent, oh, that was that. Hey, look at that boy, and you need to struggle to select who is the best,
Sure.
from the goalkeepers to the attackers.
And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, Dance, while a lot of people are stuck in traffic. They're driving, they've picked up their kids dream of being great footballers. They always come here, they ask and say, listen, I have a kid, here's his profile, he's very, very talented, he's very, very good, which we understand because we've got to believe in our children. But also, the parents have got to play a role. I mean, we saw an ugly scene over the weekend where parents and players, everybody was just punching each other because, the very same parents have put undue pressure on children to outperform themselves, to almost be like professional superstars, and they scream and they shout and they insult each other on the touchline. So what I'm asking you is, what role do you believe that parents play in a young footballer's development? What advice do you have for them as a final question?
No, I think parents need to be fair. I'm glad you asked me this because it's a broader thing. And say for instance you're holding child, and this parent's child scores a goal or two, But when you look at the amount of talent, you realize, it's not going to work out. With that goal, even Dance Malesela could have scored at his age. But the parents, because we love our kids, we want them to just be selected. The same thing in matches when they are being or they are on the losing side. We just don't want to admit that my child is on the losing side. We don't look at it with that fair eye. So I think the role that parents should do is just be honest with the kids. Look at him. Does he know football? If you can't analyze, then ask the coaches. You're free. For me, you're free to ask me what is it that my son has or my daughter has as a problem, and as a footballer as well. So we need to be honest with our kids. Let's not force them, because sometimes there is this thing, especially with the school. I know with the schools. When a child is struggling somewhere, academically struggling, and then we want to change and say, no, let's take him to football, when maybe both are not working out. Maybe find something else, maybe find a skill, a technical school and whatever. Because football is very special. That is why it is not played by everybody.
Yeah, it's a special message, Dance, and maybe a conversation that we ought to have one of these days. And I wish you everything of the best, Baba. I'm happy for you. It's a good playground for you. And I think you will find happiness once again in terms of your God-given ability to spot talent, to work with talent, and to encourage naturally gifted players to do what they do on the field of play. And everything of the best at the Africa School of Excellence as the head of football development. Dance Malesela, I appreciate you, sir.
No, I'm grateful for this opportunity, and thank you, Robs.
Thank you very much indeed, Dance Malesela. As you know, back in football, and I think I'm very, very excited, and so should a lot of parents and kids.
Marawa Sports Worldwide on 947, Monday to Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. #MSW.